Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Fitness Managers Report. My name is Stacey Alden here with Erin Wimert. We are about to talk all things retreat planning and fitness retreats, wellness retreats, you name it. They can be very intimidating. They can be exciting, but they can be a lot of work. And I know I've done them before as far as planning them and executing them, but was connected via my close friend, Jessica Rogers. As you all know, we have our own podcast together, but she connected me with Erin, who is known as someone who can kind of help be the curator of retreats for you. So she really helps, depending on the locations that she has relationships with. She helps, studios, unique or individual instructors provide wellness and fitness retreats across the world, which is really cool. So we'll address some of her ideas, some of her thoughts as I go through the questions I have for her today. But I just loved hearing and learning more about her business, Panacea Retreats, which we won't go into super detail on. She has a beautiful website. Highly recommend checking it out after listening to this podcast, where you can learn more about sensible retreat planning, which is exactly what we're going to, really dive into today. So my first question for Erin is that who are the common clients that you've worked with when planning retreats so people can kind of understand if they're one of those people?
Yeah, well, I initially created this business to help specifically yoga teachers because I have been teaching yoga, for 15 years, almost 16. And I understand being burnt out and feeling like you have to go from studio to studio. I was teaching 15 to 20 classes. And I realized, I think probably 5 years into it that I was like, this isn't sustainable. So that's when I started getting into leading retreats. So I initially designed this to work specifically with yoga instructors, but over the years, I've been having more like therapists come to me, other wellness practitioners and healers, breath workers, people doing sound healing, any really kind of healing modality. Would do well at a retreat center specifically. So it's opened up.
I'm so glad you shared that because via my experience, when I have tried to do retreats, when it has been more wellness based, I've seen a bit more success with that. I'm sure there's can be kind of a mixture of that, but I think people are seeking on these hopefully somewhat kind of vacation-esque type of experiences. They're not always, in my experience, looking for like a crazy workout every day. They're, looking for some variety each day. So awesome that you mentioned that you have that variety of clientele interested in retreats. And I didn't mention it earlier when I introduced you, but you're so right on the yoga or provider side, how we are constantly trading time for money every day, all day long. And that burnt out yoga instructor, a retreat could be potentially, if you have a lot of clientele itching to do something spectacular with you, like a retreat, it could be like a one-stop shop for you to make a larger sum of income. So can you speak
Mhm.
to that a little bit, Erin?
Yeah, I learned very quickly that you can make way more in a week long retreat than you can in like a 3 month teacher training. And I think one of the things people think is that if they're leading a retreat, they have to be teaching all day long or they have to teach every day. Maybe there's some sense of like this money is only worth it if I'm going 100% the whole time. But during a retreat, you're only teaching once or twice a day, or maybe we have days off as well. We have days where we do excursions. So there is a lot of downtime, and you're getting paid for creating the experience. Also, people are coming for you, they want to spend time with you. So for me, learning how to lead retreats has gotten me out of teaching full time. Because I started leading retreats, I got the money to create this business and set it up. It's just it's been the best thing that's ever happened to me. And I want everyone, I want all teachers and healers and, facilitators, therapists who are feeling burnt out and stuck and maybe just bored and don't know what to do next. I want them all to know about this because it's so much fun. You can make so much money. My goal is always to make $10,000 a week, though I've made much more than that. And you know, with having someone like me take care of all the details and take care of all the planning, they don't have to worry about all the administrative work that goes into getting it up off the ground. I really help people with doing all the front and back end work. So my pitch to people is, let me help you make money. And it's totally possible. People just need to believe in themselves and take the leap.
Love it. And so many encouraging words that I think people need to hear, because I feel you when you have been teaching the same class every week at the same time and you don't want to give it up, but you're also so bored out of your mind. And you start to think that
Yeah.
your client, yeah, you start to think that your clients are bored too. This could be uh, a really
And people,
motivating experience.
they don't
Yeah.
even take the first couple steps because there is a lot of work to get it off the ground, but people
Yeah.
get overwhelmed and then they just don't even do it and they go back into the same routine. I totally get that. So that was my main mission for starting this, is like, I want to help yoga teachers make money. And now I'm realizing
Mm-hmm.
there's a whole, even fitness instructors, like I've done fitness retreats before. Those are becoming more popular. Even teacher trainings, you can do destination teacher trainings. um
Mm-hmm.
if you just need a little help getting it off the ground, like that was something I became really passionate about, because now people are leading retreats who would have never done so just because they had that nudge. Maybe I just coaching with them or I did full service, but now I've been sending out checks for over $10,000 to people every month this year, so I'm really excited for them. um, to be able, I mean, it just feels good to have that sense of like, I have some savings, I can pay my bills, like maybe I can start dropping some classes.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been, a dream come true to be able to help other teachers and facilitators do this.
Awesome. Yeah. And it's really a sense of relief, I think, like you said, to be able to have the extra income as an instructor in a short amount of time, because we all know rarely are we being paid what we ideally would like to, or can make a career out of for full time, or yeah, just be
Mm-hmm.
comfortable with what we're doing.
I
um
know. I was check to
yeah,
check for a long, long time, and I know people still are. And
yeah.
I think with teaching, you think that, oh, as I get more experience, I get to make more, but that's actually not the case. I'm seeing that studios don't want to pay experienced teachers because they can get a brand new teacher for, $20 a class. So that just sucks.
Oh my gosh, yes, yes. That's another podcast we can talk through. Yeah, because in the yoga therapy world, I feel like it's definitely becoming. I could throw a rock and hit six yoga teachers along the way. But does that mean that they are as experienced or qualified to do something like this? So love that you mentioned that the participants who sign up for these retreats are there for you. And what are some of the things, I appreciate you them mentioned, there for you as the provider, but when you are building a retreat and you're kind of creating the schedule for someone, what are some of the things that help set the experience apart? um, I guess we'll start there, and then I have another question for you.
Yeah, one of the biggest pieces of feedback I've heard from students throughout the year, is that the schedule was too jam packed. They were busy, busy, busy the whole time. Some retreats they're all excursions, and people are like, well, where was the yoga or where was the classes? Something that can really help with creating a schedule is having maybe a more active class in the morning and then something more passive in the afternoon, something more restorative, or some sort of activity or excursion in the afternoon that will help you to teach your material that you taught in the morning. I always leave a full day for like a full day excursion, something that's usually accessible for people, like a sailboat cruise or something like that. And then the next day, I'll give people like completely off so that they can do whatever they want. I think people are really excited when they get there. They want to, be active and do all the things. And then after a couple of days, they're like, whoa, I just want to chill out. Like, I want to relax by the pool. Like I like having the option to go to class. Like usually I find most people come to most of the classes, but I'm very adamant in the beginning, like, hey, if you want to take a nap or you want to go surfing or you want to do whatever, like this is your time. So I think there's a difference between making this like a workshop event where you're going all the time. It's not quite a vacation because there is some structure, but people also feel free to do what they want. So there definitely is a strategic way to plan out the schedule so that people feel engaged, but they're not overwhelmed.
Such wise words. That's so helpful for people who are considering doing this. And really, to bring it back to when you were describing your role in all of this, I can't help but remember the first time I was doing my best to make this happen. And we are speaking to the providers themselves, but we may also be speaking to fitness managers who work for larger health clubs or studios who might be considering going for this. But the time it takes for you to contact the hotel, the potentially travel agencies or whatever you, depending on how much you want to cover as far as the cost, outlining and figuring out the food, outlining and figuring out which locations and how much it's going to cost for you to do yoga or do whatever experience you want to, because you have to reserve those spaces. And usually that's a separate fee. All of that work and time. And then there's marketing the retreat, which is a whole other podcast in itself. All of that time and energy, if you think about what the facility may be compensating you for your other duties, would I think at the end of the day be totally worth it to potentially hire Erin when I think about all of the work and not, and without, if you're doing this on your own, you don't have the relationships that Erin does to get discounts and really, help them understand exactly what the vision is because she's had the experience. There's done these so many times. So I hate to discourage people to not do this on their own, but I have to remind them that it may be it's going to be more lucrative potentially and more valuable for you to potentially work with Erin, and she has the experience planning. So hearing her describe the experience that's ideal is helping, but I just want to bring it back to that because I can't even, if I had an Erin when I made a retreat, I would have absolutely used an Erin.
I'd say I probably put between like 100, 150 hours into each retreat. I'd say half my clients are studio owners, and because they have more people to work with, it takes more time. But yeah, if people do want to learn how to do it on their own, like I also offer coaching, where it's like you have me for a full year, and those people are doing great with their retreats. Like they learned how to do it. They still reach out to me sometimes. But either way, whether people are doing full service with me or coaching, like it was really important for me to make this accessible to people financially, because like I said, I've been there. I had help getting money to get my first retreat off the ground. So I just want people to know that it's doable and there's support, people who legitimately want them to succeed, and let this be a new source of income. Because like I said, it's been such a game changer for me.
Love it. Love it. And that was actually kind of my next question was, you did describe it a little bit, but if you could lay out, the options someone has to get started with you. And Erin on Panacea Retreats does have a form for you. If you're curious, you can either, comment on any of the platforms that you see this podcast on, and I can connect you with her. But there's also on her site a form where you can reach out to her and get started. But if you were to layer out some of the ways someone who may be trying to do some of this on their own, partially on their own, or just hand the reins to you, what those layers kind of look like.
Yeah, so I kind of ask people like, are you feeling action oriented? Do you have time? Are you feeling motivated? I'd say 75% of people are like, can you just do it for me? And I'm like, yes, I absolutely will. Like the first piece, like I mentioned, is really, it can be a lot for people to get off the ground, but I get an idea of like who you are, who your clientele is, what sort of accommodations they need or would want. I look a lot at, like flights, where are some international nonstop flights from where you are, really trying to look for places that are going to be as accessible as possible, because that's a big deal for people. I've gotten pretty good, I feel like, at vetting venues, finding out if they're going to work well for people. I've gotten pretty good at seeing red flags. But once we find a venue, I build a website, a registration page for them. I just got my page completely revamped. I love my new retreat pages. So if you're curious of what your retreat page would look like, you can go to my site and check it out. Then I get people marketing material, physical and digital material. I'm really the liaison and like concierge for all the communication, answering people's questions, getting people prepared for travel, paying the retreat venue, setting up excursions, setting up shuttles. Really, I'm there to take care of all of the details so the leader can just show up and be present with their group, and then their students have like a middleman to work with. Because sometimes asking students for money, chasing them around for payment deadlines or information, sometimes there's problems. Students, like, it can be good to have a middleman where like there's not an awkward relationship if something went askew.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that dynamic about retreats. It's because it is a much larger sum of money that you're collecting, and there's usually a payment plan in place that you help depending on the location and the expense. I've loved how what I've seen in the retreats I've seen you market so far. There's kind of like an early bird pricing, and then there's like a series of what people can pay over time, and the fact that you can assist with that and be helpful with that is really, really great. That's just another piece that I hadn't even thought of. It's just not a lot of fun becoming a collector. Yeah.
Yeah, enforcing terms and conditions can be awkward sometimes as well.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I just really
And
like the
yeah,
students and teachers to show up and like it's a fresh, clean slate and they can start from there.
yeah. And the fact that she knows all of those things too, guys, as you're listening to this, like, some of the potential liability slash legalities, or like you said, pretty much a provider and client agreement, that all of that is so nice to just know you have that in place. And creating that is really rough, I think, for someone who's doing this brand new. So absolutely cannot recommend enough getting in touch with Erin. Consider thinking about what kind of retreat you would want to do. And then it sounds like, based on the questions that Erin shared today, she will ask you questions like what kind of clientele you have, what kind of experience they're looking for. They're looking for, 5-star Ritz-Carlton experience, or, more of a kind of a camping rustic experience. And I'm sure you can provide all in between. And then I'm sure, provide excursions that are based on kind of that clientele too.
Yeah, something I want to mention is when looking for venues, I look for full service retreat venues. So I won't go into it, but I would never choose an Airbnb for so many reasons. I would not choose a hotel. I look for centers that are specifically set up to work with retreat groups. They have, yoga space, they have props, they have house cleaning, they have a restaurant attached, they have access to local um, tour operators. I look for some place that once they arrive, everything's going to be taken care of. So that kind of goes back to just being very specific about what I'm looking for, because, ultimately my name is on the whole thing as well. So I want, obviously, my business to do well. I want these teachers to succeed. So when we work together, they can know that we're going to be finding a venue that is legitimate.
Amazing. Was there anything else before we go, Erin, that you wanted to share or have ideas for, or just want to remind people of about retreats?
If anyone has been teaching for a while and feeling like they're ready to take their offerings to the next level, I'd love to help you get there. Like I said, I started teaching. I was teaching 15, 20 classes a week, and I was able to use retreats as a springboard to get me out of that. So as a teacher myself, I completely understand your pain points, and I'd love to help you create maybe your own business side of adding retreats to your offerings. So I'm here to support you. And yeah, I've been there and I want to show you where you can go.
I love that so much. And actually, I'm just thinking, like, timeline wise, people might be hearing this and going, oh, I don't want to do something until next summer. But you may want to be reaching out to Erin now. So just a little bit, if you could share on timeline, if someone did want to do something this summer, I'm assuming it's too late for that.
I would say for international, we start planning about a year in advance. One of the reasons is, and the biggest reason, is because places start to fill up that far in advance, especially reputable places, which is what I would like us to work with. And also, it takes about a year to do marketing, to get the word out, to be consistent with talking about it, because people need to hear things like 10, 11 times before they're like, wait, Stacy has a retreat. And you're like, yeah, I've been talking about this for months. And then once they realize that you have a retreat, they have to think about it, which is why you got to keep talking about it. And then, you got to convince them, and maybe they want to ask a friend or family member. So having that year is really great. And then maybe for domestic, I'd say plan like 6 months away.
Perfect. That's amazing. And I'm sure depending on the areas of the world or the country you're looking at, the weather may be helpful depending on, different seasons, and
Mm-hmm.
could be strategic with pricing and that. And I bet you have all kinds of
Yeah.
ideas there.
Europe can be rough in the summer because it's hot. There's usually not AC, and there's just, if they have high prices then. So shoulder seasons are great. I'm actually helping a client plan a retreat for next May in Greece. So yeah, doing something April, May is still definitely on the table if that's something you wanted to do. But also like September is a great time if you're thinking Costa Rica, which is a really accessible location. You could still think like summer next year. That could still work. Rainy season starts around August. So yeah, there's definitely, you got to consider the weather patterns, but any time of the year we could find somewhere to go.
So awesome. That just hones in once again how Erin knows all of this. So talk to her, because I wouldn't know when the rainy seasons are anywhere. So highly recommend, again, reaching out to her. But thank you everyone for listening to today's podcast. I hope and pray that I will someday be able to attend one of Erin's retreats. So let me know too if you start planning one, and I'll be sure to sign up and join you. So we hope to hear from you. I'm sure Erin's excited to hear from you. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to like and subscribe to this podcast wherever you are listening to it. And in the future, upcoming, since I like to kind of preface what's coming down the road, I will be speaking to Ingrid Knight Cohey. I'm going to be advertising for her podcast mostly in July, but I will record it with her in June because she's presenting at IDEA that month. But we're going to be talking about programming for fitness managers and how to really make sure that what you're doing is accomplishing, reaching all fitness levels, all abilities, all cultures. How do you make sure that your advertising marketing reaches all those people? And then I'm also looking forward to doing a session eventually on AI in the fitness industry with my friend Vinny Dang. So lots to come. Thank you again so much, Erin, for your time and your insight.
My
And
pleasure.
so helpful giving us information, but I cannot recommend enough, again, based on my experience, to just give her a call. Give Erin a call
Let's
and
talk.
get her help. Exactly. Thank you so much for watching, everyone, and have a great rest of your